This podcast contains detailed plot spoilers, adult language, and mature themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to a podcast of Rare Antiquities. Tonight, we're going to kick ass with WandaVision, Episode 6. Vision in the middle, I guess. Welcome back to the show, guys. How's everybody doing?
Kick ass is right. Kick ass indeed. Kicking ass.
Kicking ass.
Kicking ass where you can kick some ass. Yeah.
Taking that ass and kicking it through the uprights.
I feel like this is going to be a runner for the rest of the episode. I've actually never seen Kick-Ass.
What?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I watched. I gotta do the Cisco one. What? I started watching it. I got, I don't know, maybe a half hour in. I was just like, I can't watch this anymore. Like, I just couldn't do it. So I stopped. I want to give it another try. But you know what I didn't realize until I actually just looked it up. I made two discoveries that surprised me. One, Evan Peters is in Kick-Ass. I didn't realize that.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, it was strange. I was like, no, that can't be right. It's the other Quicksilver that was in it. It's like, no, he's in it too. And the other thing is, I didn't realize that Aaron Taylor Johnson was also in Tenet. He was the
military guy. Yeah, he was the buff military dude. Yeah.
The main character that isn't introduced until like halfway through the movie. Yeah. I'm like, well, who's this guy now? Like, wait, was he earlier in the? Oh man. Anyways,
we could talk about Tenet for a year and a half. I think
I could spend days talking about Tenet up and down.
Yeah.
Like, I can talk about it, get in the turnstile, talk about it backwards, and then come right back again and talk about it.
Yeah.
Just remember, if we ever do Tenet, I will be publishing it only backwards. So.
Yeah.
There you go.
No, actually, we should almost like have it, like, if we could record it like 3 different audios and like at least one person. Maybe just like 2 people are talking like in normal time and the other person is inverted the whole conversation.
We should do it like the video for Amish Paradise, where like you're doing it backwards but forwards. Okay, well let's get into WandaVision. So yeah, this is episode 6. We're into the 2000s now. Feels like only yesterday we were in the 90s. So
wasn't it the 80s? So we've skipped the 90s.
No, I thought, yeah, that's right. I guess we did skip the 90s because we did Family Ties basically last week, right?
Yep.
So we're doing a Malcolm in the Middle this week, which is like premiered in 2000. So I guess we can kind of give it a 90s, 2000s. And they don't need to stick to the decades, I suppose. So
didn't Malcolm in the Middle like borrow its format from other shows, like Nickelodeon shows?
That's a fair point to bring up. And I was just going to say, before we get into the episode, I never watched Malcolm in the Middle. So I didn't recognize, I didn't know what they were doing at the start, had to look it up. I'll ask each of you, Nathan, maybe you can go first. Like, did you watch Malcolm in the Middle? And as you say, if they borrowed some of the format from some older Nickelodeon shows in the 90s, like, do you have any insight for us there?
I did not watch Malcolm in the Middle. When I saw the opening, I thought, is this Malcolm in the Middle? But I have a memory of, I wasn't really watching a lot of TV in the late 90s. Maybe some Seinfeld here and there because it was on its last, I guess it ended in 97. But this reminded me of Nickelodeon kid shows. And then when I looked it up, it seemed as though Malcolm in the Middle, it made this popular, and I think it probably solidified the formula of this type of show. But I think it did borrow from other shows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
especially
Harry,
the opening.
Yeah, well, the opening very much so. Harry, what about you? Were you a Malcolm in the Middle guy?
Nope. I knew of Malcolm in the Middle, I think, because I was watching this, either kind of was on the same channel as either The Simpsons or The X-Files. I'm assuming this is where I kind of caught like either the intros or the ending of the shows. So I've seen the beginning, and I guessed that this was Malcolm in the Middle. It just had that vibe, like my memory was just saying Malcolm in the Middle. So I guess that's right. So
yeah, no, that's absolutely correct. Well, and I guess part of disappointment is maybe the wrong word. I think, you guys tell me what you think, but I had the expectations for what I wanted to see with sitcoms. And so when we come across an episode where I didn't watch that show, I'm sort of inherently disappointed, because of the jokes or the style, they don't hit. We all said before, like what sitcom will we be looking forward to, and looking forward to like a Seinfeld or even a Frasier or a Friends, like something I was more familiar with would have been.
The only thing with that is the minute the kids popped up, that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it has to be the family format, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I had the exact same thought that it was always going to be, I mean, not always, but it was going to lean towards more like the family sitcom. I'm actually surprised that there was, like, at least last week's wasn't, I guess because it had to be the 80s. And so I had an expectation that they were going to roll into like a more like a Roseanne or Married with Children. There is a possibility that I don't think we'll ever see it, but I almost wonder if that inside the show, like for the sword people, like maybe it does cycle through some of that stuff. Because I did listen to an episode with the showrunner, and she basically confirmed that there are episodes that happen that we don't see, but the sword people do see, just because the shows don't, like, it's not an episode that, because it's like a half hour, they don't run like on a loop. Right. And so there is times where, because it's been like a week or something like that for these people, right? So an episode's going to be, whatever, 30 minutes, they're going to watch it, but then I guess there'd be she didn't really elaborate on it, but I almost wonder at some point they cycled through some other weird stuff. So
that makes sense. Like, we kind of just see the
highlights,
episodes. Yeah, the highlights. Yeah, and that makes sense. It's too bad that, like, this is probably going to be the only season of WandaVision. I'll assume that we're not going to see. Oh, there's so much they could do, and I can only imagine if you're sitting there and like breaking the season, what episodes, what concepts fell by the wayside that they had to cut because they figured, like, okay, this is the right format for the story we want to tell. I'd love to see the cut. I'd love to see the material that didn't make it, just to see what they were thinking of. It would have been fun. But
the showrunner, she didn't elaborate too much, but it basically said that Marvel had to rein her in on the weirdness. So I'm sure there was. I wonder if there was just like more episodes, and they said, "No, you got," because that does happen sometimes. You're like, "Oh, I got this cool idea," and there's probably so much there that it would have been like 13 episodes, and then they said, "No, you gotta rein that in a little bit."
Well, that makes sense. You gotta, I can understand where they would be coming from there. I mean, you gotta keep it tight, and you can't just do stuff because you think it's going to be cool. You gotta keep the show within a certain boundary, and it's hard to make those cuts. But let's get into it here. So we get the new family situation with Pietro recast, and he's the zany uncle. I really like that casting choice there, or the situation where he's sleeping on the couch there, and the kids are, they're a little bit older now. But it's the Halloween episode, which I like so what did you guys think of the seasonal specific episode? This is always, watching sitcoms or whatever shows as a kid, the seasonal episode was always one of the highlights for me, whether it's Treehouse of Horror or The Office Christmas episode. Big highlight for me. So I got a little tingle when I realized that. So Harry, what did you think of that? Do you have any sort of fond memories of the seasonal episodes of shows as a kid? And how did you feel about the choice here?
Yes, I mean, I remember seasonal episodes. I mean, you brought up like Treehouse of Horror would be the best reference for me. What I always looked forward to from The Simpsons every year was those Treehouse of Horror episodes. Regarding sitcoms, though, which are not animated sitcoms, I'm trying to remember. I can't remember. I'm sure they did it. They did Christmas ones. They did Halloween ones. I just can't picture it off the top of my head. Simpsons was it for me, whether it was for seasonal stuff, whether it was Halloween or Christmas. I think that set the gold standard, which still is going on today. Say what you want about The Simpsons, but those Treehouse of Horror ones are still good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they certainly are. Yeah. Nathan, what about you?
Yeah, definitely. Treehouse of Horror was always kind of like a Halloween staple. But yeah, I don't really recall any shows that would. I mean, you may see an occasional Halloween. Sometimes they're like maybe a Christmas episode, but it would be weird that maybe there's an episode and there's a Christmas tree there, but like it's only there for the week, one episode, I guess. Which we all know that your Christmas tree goes up for 2 months. Like you never saw a sitcom with the tree just around and it's like like Valentine's Day. I do remember that the Valentine's Day episodes used to be more frequent because it would give a little bit more like comedy of, oh, the guy's doing something dumb and the girl wanted to do something romantic and something like that. That was always like fodder for sitcoms. Well, I didn't watch it as a kid, but Buffy the Vampire Slayer always had great Halloween episodes, I thought. And I always just loved how monsters always treated as like really gauche.
Yeah, that's right. It was kind of like, that's right. Yeah, it was the vampires didn't come out on Halloween in Buffy.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
Kind of feel like in sitcom land, I think the holiday stuff, I don't know. I feel like maybe it was more like family related shows because looking back on it, I didn't really watch a lot of like nuclear family oriented sitcoms. I mean, I watched Family Ties, but I liked, like Jeff, you and I have talked about this. Like, why did we talk about, or why did we watch Cheers?
Yeah.
Like there's nothing further, like as a kid, there's almost nothing further than a show like Cheers that you can possibly relate to, right? But they never really did those types of
It was all
episodes
taboo.
where-
It was all taboo. That's why you wanted to know more. It was like a window into what you couldn't see yourself.
Maybe I think
I don't
maybe
know. That's just the way I'm looking at it.
Well,
that's a good theory.
But it wasn't taboo in our house. Like we could just watch it. Like
No, I'm not saying taboo for your house. I'm saying taboo. You aren't permitted to go into bars. You're not supposed to be drinking alcohol. So that's a window and a glimpse into your future. Are you going to be Sam? Are you going to be Sam? Are you going to be Woody? Are you going to be Coach? You going to be Norm?
I'm Norm. I'm definitely Norm.
There you go.
I might even be Cliff because I'm such a fucking know-it-all. So
yeah, I was about to say, like Jeff, you and I are the Cliffs. I think.
We're
going
Cliffs. Like, well, actually,
yeah, but actually, no. Looking back on it, it was like the family sitcom. Like I never watched like Family Matters. I mean, I kind of watched Growing Pains, but I wasn't that into it. But I like things like Perfect Strangers, right, and Cheers, things like that. So Night Court. Like, why did I like Night Court? I know nothing about this world, right? So, but just thought it was funny. So again, a little off track there, but yeah. I did like this because it's a nice setup for kind of getting them out of the house a little bit, because we've actually been confined to the house quite a bit. So it was just sort of the nature of this style of show from the early 2000s, like you single camera and you move around in like locations and stuff like that.
Well, speaking of locations, I loved everything on the outside. Everything they did within the town and with the neighborhoods, the way it was shot, like it was a lot of space, wide. I wouldn't say epic, but grand shots of the neighborhood. I really enjoyed it. I liked how it was all lit. So it was great.
There was something about, and they've done this so well with each episode. And this one's a little harder to nail down, but it does feel like early 2000s still somehow. And maybe it's just in my mind, I'm just associating it, but it looks older somehow.
I didn't get that, but maybe.
Well, I think what they did a good job of like anchoring it in. How do I want to say this? Like the advantage this week is that like they chose a sitcom from that era that is very modern, and that helps them to kind of switch back and forth between the outside MCU world and the sitcom. Like I think they struggled with that last week because they're still kind of on the set, but they're also going outside a lot this week because the sitcom they chose, like they didn't choose a sitcom that was just the 3 camera on a set, sort of fixed camera angles. They chose one where they could kind of build it out. So that helped. They can go into the neighborhood. They can do the multiple camera angles on the set, and that eases the transition between the sitcom and the outside world a little bit. So I think it was a smart choice from that perspective, right? But I guess let's talk a little bit about the episode, the plot. It opens with one of the twins there, and he does the old talking to the camera situation there. He's got his little rivalry with his brother, like which one's the cool one and all that stuff. And it's Halloween. I love the costumes. That was great. These are basically versions of the classic costumes in the comic books, I presume.
Yeah, I was presuming the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who are we talking about? Everybody or the kids?
Well, everybody.
I was talking about Wanda and Vision in particular.
Yeah, those are. But actually, I had to look it up. But even the kids, like those are their costumes in Marvel Comics, or pretty close approximations.
Okay. Well, because one kid was dressed up like Quicksilver there. What was the other kid dressed up as? Is that his?
That's his. And I honestly can't remember. Like,
I can't remember what he was.
Real name. Like, there's Billy and Thomas. I don't know which is which. But in the comic books, the fast one is called Speed, because I guess they're just running out of speedster names. So like, just get the bottom of the barrel.
Fucking Speed. Yeah, exactly.
The next guy is going to be like Fast Guy or whatever. And the other one, I believe, is called Wiccan, and his powers are like his mom's, and like that's kind of his costume is like a red cape. At first, I thought, I was like, wait, is he dressed up like Doctor Strange? Until I looked it up, and it's like, no.
Okay.
It is his costume. He's got like a red cape with a bandana or something like that.
Okay. So I guess a lot of the episode revolves around Wanda. I don't know if I could say coming to terms with her relationship with Pietro there, but she is like, she's asking him questions, and he has the memories that she expected. He even says like he got shot in the street like a chump or something like that, right?
But wasn't there a point where she says, "I didn't remember it exactly that way"?
She did. That was actually that was one of my favorite scenes there, because he flashes back to Halloween in Sokovia.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the lady like gives them a fish, like a dead fish, as their trick or treat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that was great.
Actually, there's a lot of good detail in that. Like not just the fish, but like you see like the looks on their faces, and there's like in the background, there's like two guys stealing a car, and there's also like
I didn't see that.
And there's also like gunfire off in the distance.
Yeah.
Like it's just like again, like more, and they did this with the last episode when I mentioned this. They showed the pictures of her in like this dilapidated former Soviet nation, and I just thought again, like just those little things is pretty funny.
That was so good. Yeah.
Actually, what I enjoyed was that when they were having their little barbs back and forth, he made fun of her accent because she made fun of his.
Yeah. Where's your accent? He's like, where's
or lack thereof. Yeah.
Or lack thereof. Yeah, I thought that was funny.
Yeah, that was good too. I love their interplay. They actually have really good chemistry. Great to see because of what they're doing here. Well, I don't really know what they're doing, but there's the separate universes that they come from. It's nice to see that they have good interplay there. I really liked him. What's his name? He was great. He was one of my favorite parts of the episode. What do you guys think? So Nathan, what's your take here? Is this just sort of a fun joke? Well, we talked about this last week as well, but are you hoping we get to see him enter into the Marvel universe there? And
I don't know anymore, to be totally honest, because and they can go so many different directions. I think it's too much to put on this show, like reintroducing like that whole X-Men thing. That's just too big of a bugaboo. And but at the same time, like Disney is or not Disney, but like Marvel, I don't feel like they're going to tease fans like that too much without any type of payoff. I did think that they had great chemistry. It almost like in a weird way, almost he should have been the MCU Quicksilver and Aaron Taylor Johnson should have gone to the Fox version. But yeah, a lot of the interplay was a lot of fun, and just like the shtick of the cool uncle, because one of the kids says, "Oh, he even snores cool." And the way he's kind of like goofing off with them and running around and whatnot, and stealing the can. Like actually, that was a good gag. Like the mayhem.
The mayhem.
Yeah, and the mayhem is like, and everyone's covered in silly string now.
Let's talk about that for a bit there. What was going on there? Where the one Frankenstein looking dude, and it was like he was reporting on what was going on. I don't know. Did I miss?
No, it was the neighborhood patrol. Like this was mentioned a little earlier, like Visions, because like going back several episodes, right? They're like
the neighborhood watch,
the neighborhood watch, right? And that was Herb, right? I think Herb is
Right.
the
That's right.
character's
Herb,
name.
yeah.
And that was Vision's excuse to get out of the house. I was like, "Oh, I'm on duty with the neighborhood watch."
Right. Okay.
So that's what that kind of was.
I got a couple of moments there where I thought he was asking her like, "Is this okay?" Or
But
No,
he did though.
He did.
He did.
He asked
Okay.
her. He asked her because when things were going wrong and people were getting silly string all over him, and he was reporting all of those things, he obviously knows that that's something that's being caused as a result of Wanda.
right.
So when she's asking him what's going on, he's kind of saying, "Well, is that okay, or what do we want to do here about it, or something along those lines?"
He says that, but I rewound it and I listened to the way he said it a couple of times. It plays a little ambiguous, even though actually in a past episode, right when he was going to tell Vision, I think this was the 70s episode, he wanted to say something to Vision, and he couldn't quite do it until Agnes stopped him. And this, it's like it can sort of play either way, but her reaction to it is like, because she was a little surprised that he asked it, like, "What do you mean? No, it's fine, do whatever," kind of thing. So I thought it was good. I thought that was a good way to kind of play it without, and because they didn't linger on it too much.
Mm-hmm.
No, they didn't. Yeah. Yeah. So Harry, what did you think of? No, go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry. No. Ask away.
Well, I was just going to same question. What did you think of Evan Peters as Quicksilver here? And
Loved it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he was the highlight of the episode, hands down.
Mhm.
So again, you guys are right. Like, good rapport with Elizabeth Olsen. I like their play off each other. What I also found interesting, and we could talk about this now, is that when they're kind of sitting in the town square, I'm assuming, or wherever, he questions her. He also says, "Well, I came here because you needed me," and like he's saying he's in on how are you controlling all this, and
Mhm.
so he's probably not real, I'm assuming, or in this. I have no idea. So I guess that's the question. What is he? Because she brought Vision here, so she's
Yeah.
reanimated Vision. Has she really reanimated or opened a door for this other Quicksilver? Because this Quicksilver knows that he's kind of part of this fake imaginary thing. He says this is fucking sweet. He's there to support her because he's the
Yeah.
brother. But that's what he was. It's kind of interesting. I thought I'd pose that to you guys.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean,
Like, there's so many little things kind of going on with him because, well, first of all, like, they established that she recognizes him as her brother, and yet she's also aware that it's kind of not her brother. It's like, well, why do you? It wasn't just the accent. She goes like, "Why do you look different?" He's like, "Yeah, I know I look different."
Mhm.
And it's not really till that scene that you're talking about, Harry, where like he actually goes into the specifics, because he actually says, and this was the thing that I had noticed. It's like, "Oh, it's a good thing you brought out all the kids for the holiday episode."
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like, where were they? You're doing a
Before,
good job. You're
yeah.
keeping all the families together. They got better jobs. Personalities are mostly unchanged. And that's, I mean, and this is kind of where she acknowledges that, like, I don't know exactly. She still is unsure of how it started exactly, but
Mhm.
I think actually this is something we can talk about later. But I'm really on the fence is he real or not? Or I almost started wondering, it's like, wait, is this just like, this is just a disguise, and he maybe he's the antagonist of this whole thing, and he's just playing dumb and playing along.
To borrow a line from The Matrix, what is real? I mean, in this,
The red woman's real. Trust
yeah,
me.
exactly. The red woman's always real. Yeah.
Or the woman in red.
Well, hey, woman in red, trouble ahead. And who's wearing red in this episode?
Mm-hmm.
That is actually a common trope. Is the woman in red? But on the inside here, they're real. Like, they're real. But what does that mean? I don't know. We don't really need to get into that, because it's it's a TV show about mutants and witches and robots and shit. So like I don't know how deep we want to kind of get into that kind of stuff. But
I think it's like a rabbit hole that we can let the other neckbeards of the internet kind of delve into that, because we could be here for hours just with theories.
I feel, though, that like we're smart and we could bring a lot more than the neckbeards of the internet. But let's keep moving through the episode. So, since Halloween, this trick-or-treating, we've talked about the interplay between Wanda, Pietro. Vision kind of gets his own little journey here. So let's talk about that for a little bit. I know lots intercut here and there, but Vision, he's kind of off on his own, and he's observing strange goings on here and there. And at some point, the whole town basically just freezes for him, and he takes.
Why was that? Why was that? It's just because Wanda's so focused on Pietro, so she's only able to kind of focus her attention on her immediate surroundings.
Like,
so the outskirts is kind of like in a pause.
I think that that's kind of what I thought. It's not clear, but I guess that's the explanation. But
yeah, that's the only thing I could think of. But.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's kind of I think it's that as well, where just sort of the further away. So it's like, I think it's a combination of two things. One is, as you guys said, it's just like, I think as she's just concentrated on her immediate surroundings, the only thing that needs to happen in the episode is like basically what's in the camera. So it's a little bit like a TV show where the further off in the distance you go, there's less and less is happening unless the detail is there, because it starts subtly where the one woman who's kind of crying, you see that tear coming down her face, but there are other people around moving. It's super creepy.
They're doing that repetitive, like she's hanging something on the clothesline.
Yeah.
The one with the tear.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I felt bad for that actor in the background because I didn't think that they were like filming it and pulling it back. I felt like they were actually moving forward and backwards. And I was like, man, it must be hard on that guy's back. I felt bad for him.
Yeah, it's like, can we just loop this? No, just carry that back and forth. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, back and forth. Like it was like a real attention to like no, you got to just move back and forth. It's like, can't you just do it once and like pull it back and forth in the editing bay? Nope, you got to keep doing it. Nope, just Bob, just keep doing it.
Cut out. You missed it.
Keep going. Yeah, Bob, you moved your foot the wrong way.
He's like that guy hiccuping on The Simpsons. Kill me, kill me, kill me.
Yeah.
Anyway, you were saying.
Oh no, I just thought it was kind of that because those people are not in her immediate vicinity and because they have no function in the show, like therefore they wouldn't need to move. But I think it's also a combination of just the further away you get from Wanda, then like she still has the control over you, but you're not doing anything. So I think we see that later with Agnes. Because she is a major character, and yet she got trapped by moving too far.
Yeah, I guess that was one of the questions I had. Maybe we could talk about it a little bit, where Vision does come across Agnes, and she's right on the edge of town, but basically frozen, and he kind of messes with her mind a little bit there, so that he brings her out of it for a bit, but she can't leave. So there's there's the hint there that, like, what is it about her where she has the awareness that other people don't? So something's up with Agnes, right?
Yeah, I don't think so anymore.
No,
because when she was rescued or unfrozen by Vision, she was just like the others, just like the other guy from last week, saying that you got to help us, like we can't escape.
Yeah,
right.
And then he puts her back, and then it's just kind of it's the same thing as the other guy from last week. There's no difference.
Right. But she got to the end of town, which we know is like, that's the edge, right? She went.
Did you notice the name of that street?
Yeah.
Ellis. Why are you saying these things to them, Ellis?
No, I was just wondering if you guys knew.
You fucking coke fiend, Ellis.
Hans. Booby.
Oh, boy.
On the White Knight.
In fact, just as an aside, that's probably the greatest joke in any movie ever, where they hand him a can of Coke.
Yeah, I know.
At the end there. Greatest joke ever. Anyway. Because they're never doing Die Hard on the show. Because it's not...
Yeah. I totally forgot about like that character. Well, I didn't forget the character. I just forgot that's what his name was. No, I just noticed it was Ellis, and I just kind of assumed that it was for the MCU's President Ellis, played by William Slater in Iron Man 3. I assumed that's what a reference was.
No, the reference was Die Hard.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because small towns, they're so into those like early or those mid '80s yuppies movie characters.
They cut the scene where Vision and Agnes do rails off of her dashboard in the car there.
Oh boy.
No.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Harry.
Well, I was just gonna say,
what
dashboard are you talking about?
No, the dashboard of her car.
Oh, okay.
That's not very '80s. I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm thinking more RoboCop. But yeah, I'm a little bit more with Harry that I think Agnes is maybe not as in control of the situation, even though we did see her last episode sort of break. I did mention, I think it was last week, I'd mentioned that a lot of theories about who Agnes was, and a lot of it was based on this scene because of the way she's dressed.
As a witch, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I saw this in the trailer.
Right.
This is what I was thinking. I thought you were referring to this whole time too, Nathan. I just didn't want to say anything.
Yeah, and so that, well, I didn't want to say that, like, because I didn't want to. I knew it was coming up in the next. Well, I guess we're down towards the end of the show, but I figured it would have been the next couple of episodes based on the trailer. But yeah, a lot of those theories are, I think, based a little bit on the name and just this costume. But I don't know. I don't think that theory is necessarily correct, because that character is, in the comic book, is like a mentor figure for Scarlet Witch, and that is not the dynamic here at all.
Doesn't seem to be.
No, it doesn't seem to be. But that doesn't mean that it can't get there either, though. I still think there's more to be told.
That's true.
With Agnes. All right, well, let's.
Before you go, I just wanted to just ask you guys the shots here. I loved everything about this, and how Paul Bettany, how he was playing off Agnes there, like he had that genuine concern when she was like kind of revealing everything to him, and he wants to help, and I thought that was awesome. But I also loved his Superman shot with when he was like kind of, flew up into the sky and he was listening to the whole neighborhood and stuff. I got a kick out of that. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, good shot. Reminded me of Superman Returns a little bit. Yeah, it's good. I mean, I like Paul Bettany a lot. It was nice to see him as kind of full-on Vision. Like, that was cool. But yeah, I really like that shot too. I think that's a good catch. Let's take a trip outside of Westview and check in on our lower decks characters. So Rambo and Darcy and Agent Wu. Agent Wu. Yeah. So they.
Yeah, I don't understand what the plan is here.
Yeah, it's like bullshit. We got to do a thing to get to what? Like, get on the inside.
Yeah, well, right? Where are they going? I don't even know where they're going.
Well, they want to get into the town.
Yeah, so then why didn't they head towards the bubble?
That makes sense to me too. Yeah, like the army, SWORD isn't guarding the whole perimeter. They can't. They don't have it's a big town. Like, why don't they just go inside?
I don't even think that they'd face a lot of opposition just walking to that spot from this week or last week. They only go out there with their guns when something is coming out.
Exactly.
So, but in the end, like, what was their plan? Because at the end of the episode, they weren't heading towards that. They were heading away from it.
I don't know what their plan is. That's a good question. I didn't really believe that. I mean, I believe that Monica beat up some SWORD agents, but Agent Wu there.
I was really hoping for some close-up magic to take them down.
Yeah.
Like he was gonna,
so good. Like, pick a card.
It wasn't just like pick a card. He just
in the guy's face and punch.
No, he takes out like a pocket watch and like makes the guy go to sleep or something like that. I was really hoping for more close-up magic. That was the weird thing. Like, I honestly felt like Rambo was the one who would throw the first punch, not Jimmy Woo. Jimmy Woo is not a first punch kind of guy.
No, he's not. So that was a little tough for me to watch that. But all right, it's fine. And Darcy didn't have much to do except for computer shit. Okay, so
hacking. Got to get past the firewalls. And oh boy, it's like that laptop is connected to the Wi-Fi. You don't have to hack anything. Like it's probably on the Wi-Fi. Yeah, exactly. You're in the inside. If you break into my house and use my laptop, it's like I got to break into the network. No, you just turn the computer on.
Yeah, you're in. You're already in. I feel like the government needs to commission an agency for Hollywood to be like, okay, we're the Hollywood hacking agency. Like any hacking, if you're writing hacking into your script, it's got to get approved at a committee. You got to go to Washington.
No, they got to go to hacker boot camp. Forget the military boot camp.
They gotta be like, okay, tell us your hacking thing. Okay, no, that's bullshit. You can't put that anywhere. They gotta regulate that stuff because it's ridiculous. I mean, it's been ridiculous for decades, but Jesus Christ.
But I also hate that there's always just one character who just has those skills automatically.
Yeah,
like I'll just hack into it. Like, it's such a meaningless word. Hack into it.
That's right. If she's gonna hack into anything, it means that she's gonna load up some software, go get a cup of coffee and wait for 24 hours for.
Yeah. I want to see a full 20 minutes of just like command lines, all that sort of shit. Get the guy who does Mr. Robot. Whoever's writing that show is doing it right. Like, get him on it.
That's a great idea, actually. Yeah. Like, get it done. But then it would take way too long. And it's just weird the place hacking occupies in popular culture. It's so ridiculous.
It is. But as to what you guys were kind of saying, I didn't really understand. I think actually the reason why they wouldn't just walk into the anomaly is because I think at least my understanding was that they knew that if they went into it, then they suddenly would be wrapped up in the reality and they wouldn't have control anymore. So I think the plan is to somehow go inside. Again, I'm basing this on something very brief I saw in one of the trailers, that they want to try and go inside, but somehow not be affected by the hex, right? Because I think that's what's going to happen. And this is why I thought that last week when I said that some of them would end up being in the show, simply because in one of the trailers, it's like, oh, okay, the hex is expanding somehow. So I thought, okay, like everyone's going to be trapped in there. I never saw anything that would indicate. Actually, there's very little in the trailers to show like what is going forward now, and we've got 3 more episodes left. So I have no idea what Darcy's going to be doing on the inside there. But my understanding is that I guess it's going to be Monica trying to get back in without being affected. As to what the plan is at that point, I have no idea, right? Because like, what are you going to do?
Right. Okay. Well, let's keep in order because we know what's going to happen there. So Vision, after his interaction with Agnes there, he walks out into the field. I guess he can sense the edge there, and he gets to the barrier and pushes himself through. I was on pins and needles here. I was like, oh man, what's going to happen? Is he going to like push through there and just fall over dead because he's corpse? Like what was going to happen? But I think they found the right solution there. Like he comes through as himself. Clearly, he's tethered to the town, right? And there's the imagery sort of evocative of the snap, right?
It's like, I think, therefore I am, right?
Therefore I am, exactly. Stepping outside of the holodeck vision.
That's
Don't
right.
do it. Don't do it.
I'm Cyrus Redblock. I'm Cyrus Redblock.
There it is.
There you go.
Oh, I can't. I dug deep on that one.
You
I
did.
was like, what was the guy's name again?
Yeah, you got that one. That's right.
Oh, I'm so disappointed in myself. Yeah, but he comes outside and he's asking for help. Well, okay.
He's saying the people need help.
No, he's asking for help, isn't he?
Well, he's asked for help for I thought he was asked for help for the people who were inside.
Either way, it was a great scene. That was great.
Very good scene.
Yeah.
Well, I forgot to bring it up when he was with Agnes there, and she's like, "You're an Avenger," and he's like, "What's an Avenger?"
Oh yeah, that's right.
He doesn't have his memory, right, of his past life. So
right, he doesn't remember. He kind of like he knows who he is, but he doesn't remember who he is in a sense, right? So that was out on the outside there. I guess we'd have to presume he doesn't really know. He doesn't have any knowledge of what's going on out there, but he does have to ask. He asks for help. So yeah, that was a good scene there.
Yeah, and I guess then what's your take on it? Because he's breaking apart, so he can't survive out of the holodeck, essentially, right?
Right,
so.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Well, I think, and maybe we brought this up last week, Vision himself exists because of the Mind Stone. The Mind Stone kind of gives him, the Mind Stone is almost like the nexus, if you will, that integrates all of the software algorithms, right? Ultron, Jarvis, Tony, Bruce Banner. But the Mind Stone is what animates it into consciousness, into a person, if you will, right? If Wanda's powers come from, she's animating him, her powers come from the Mind Stone. Outside of that, he has to be within the range, I guess, of what she can do. Because without the Mind Stone, all of it, just it's like pulling on the thread of the tapestry. If we want to stick with Star Trek references, it unravels him.
But it's weird though, because we've seen other objects. So you enter it and things are transformed into its reality, and then they leave and they remain, because Monica was still wearing her 70s clothes. We saw the one sword agent.
Right.
Which they never resolved whatever happened to that guy. But the rope coming back turned into a skipping rope. So it's weird then that he can't be, because actually, Jeff, what you had said, I was thinking the same thing. I just thought it'd be his corpse suddenly. The corpse would just sort of drop dead out, or we would sort of see him reverting back to that state, like without the Mind Stone, without the hex.
I think you were seeing part of that.
I don't think so, because because his body was disintegrating. That's not the state of the body that at the end of Infinity War. It's just like his forehead was ripped out. It was like it was almost like because you actually see like him almost being pulled back into the hex.
Yes, that's
like it wouldn't let him leave. Yeah, I really thought that was, I was really confused because I was so confused. I'm like what is happening here? Because I couldn't figure out, I guess, the mechanics of it. I mean, I guess like the symbolism is that if the hex it's connected to Wanda, well, we see her control it, that it would not want him to leave for his own safety, but like his will to try and escape. Well, Hayward says he wants to escape, but actually and he does, but he's actually looking to help the people of the town, right? Not
he
just
doesn't want
like
to escape. He wants help. He wants help.
Exactly. It's just like it's not like he's the dad getting cigarettes and he's never comes back. Yeah. I did sort of think it was weird though that and I know they sort of allude to, like, what was I can't remember my life before Westview, but it is such an odd thing that this reality, it's completely unquestioned by him, by someone who thinks so extraordinarily logically about things. I can sort of understand, like, yeah, I don't remember know what an Avenger is, but like, how would he not know where he came from? Because they also drove there, which, I mean, I don't want to get into the minutia of like, well, if they drove there, where'd they drive from, sort of thing. But it's almost like he's similar to the people in the town, like they're just sort of unable to think about it. Because that was a thing that Agnes had said to him when she was freed from the control. She said, we can't leave. Wanda doesn't even let us think about it. And even though Vision obviously exerts some of his own control, there must still be something of Wanda in there preventing him from, like, why doesn't he just like fly right out of there and just sort of check and see what things are all about, right? But he doesn't. Maybe it's fear. I don't know. But it was a great scene though. Great scene, pretty tense. I kind of got I think at this point, like I'm very convinced that Hayward's up to no good.
It seems that way.
Yeah, because he's tracking Vision. I don't think he really gives a shit about the people on the inside. I personally think he wants Vision back.
Or he wants the Mind Stone, if it exists now, again.
Well, I don't know if
or at least the if not the Mind Stone, then the body of Vision, like it's a weapon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. The one thing I made a note of when Darcy, aka Zero Cool, was hacking into Sword's computer files, she finds something called Project Cataract.
She did? I didn't even notice. I know she got into a folder. I didn't see any project.
It's very brief. I had to go back and I paused it. And it says Project Cataract. Like, I didn't really think about it. Then I realized, like, oh, wait, cataract's a thing that obstructs your vision.
Oh, there you go.
So maybe it's a big nothing thing, but I'm really of the Mind Stone, if you will, that Hayward just wants Vision's body back, if it's animated or otherwise, because I do think that they were going to use him as a weapon. Because Darcy even says, well, they're tracking him, right? So they must have had a tracker on him the whole time. All as to why they couldn't find him before the whole hex thing, I don't know.
Before I forget, let's talk about this week's commercial.
Oh yes, what is it? Yo Magic?
Yeah.
Yo Magic.
Yo Magic. I'm trying to think now what happens. So
there was the animated kid. It's all in claymation, which I love. Kid trapped on a deserted island, no food or water, and a shark comes out of nowhere and is like, gives him this package of food or yogurt. Was it yogurt?
No, it's called yogurt. Yo Magic. Well, it's yogurt, but the brand is called Yo Magic.
He can't open it. And
that's great.
And I was like, oh shit, that's dark as fuck.
It is dark.
Yeah, it's dark. I loved it. It was good.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
So does this represent Vision now? Instead of something about Wanda, have they shifted it to talk about Vision?
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't unpack it at all.
Okay, I'm going to give you guys my theory. And I think there's probably a couple of different ways to interpret this. I think that okay, so all the commercials up to this point have represented things we know of Wanda's past, right? Either we've seen them or she has mentioned them, okay? I think that this represents something that happens after Avengers Endgame. And I'll tell you why, because she has a line a little bit later that I think relates to this. So you have this kid on the island who is starving, right? So the shark shows up, and the shark I think the shark is representative of maybe somebody she met. And I could be reading into this because I still have this theory that there's still this other force that has helped her create this reality. And the kid's saying, "Oh, I'm so hungry." And the shark says, "I remember a time when I was really hungry." And the kid's like, I'm paraphrasing all this. And the kid's like, "Well, what did you do?" And the shark goes, "Yo, magic." Gives it to the kid. Now the kid can't open it in. I was just like, what the fuck is going on? It's like getting way too dark. And then the kid just dies, turns into a skeleton. I think this is representative of Wanda is using magic to make herself feel better. Maybe this hex. And it's just not working for her. Like it's not nourishing for her. The reason why I think this represents that is because later in the town square, when she's talking to Pietro in the little maze thing made of hay or whatever, it was after Pietro asked her about how she started all this, and she's like, she still wasn't sure, and she's like, all I remember, I was completely alone, and there was nothing but emptiness, and like that kind of represents. It's sort of just symbolic of like her being on an island, right, surrounded by the nothingness of the ocean. Now I'm reading into the thing with the shark. I honestly feel like the shark represents someone else that she met, whether she sought them out or they sought her out. There's like 1,000 theories online about who this person is that just goes like, just name a Marvel character. And I think someone has theorized that it's, yeah. I mean, at some point, I think someone's theorizing that it's Namor the Submariner because like, oh, he's underwater. Like it gets that, like the theories get that crazy, right? And so I think that we will later, I think in the next few episodes, I have reason to believe that there'll be not flashbacks, but I think seeing things from a couple different angles, and we may see what this represents. I don't think we've actually seen this. I think we will actually see more specifics about what this commercial represents. That's my take on it. That's just my take on it.
No, I love the take. That did a hell of a lot more than my brain was doing. Harry, did you have anything else on the commercial?
No, I mean, I think Nathan probably has a better theory than mine. I thought maybe there's a possibility it was transitioning something to about Vision. Once he's going out, he can't survive, right? He can't live without Wanda's magic,
right,
or something along those lines. But that's just too.
And that's a pretty good theory as well. My only thought though is that all the commercials have been about Wanda.
Yeah, that's right. We'll see next week. But, if next week is kind of, if it transitions more to about Vision, then there you go.
Yeah. Although I think that is still I didn't think of it from that point of view. That's a pretty solid theory in and of itself, because it's basically saying that he can't survive without your magic,
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's
I
right.
love that. Yo, magic. That's great.
Also, the other thing I thought, and I wish they had done this. It would have been great. I'd almost wish the shark was voiced by Vin Diesel, and the only reason why is because in this period of time, I don't know if you guys have ever seen this commercial. Like, I think this is even before he ever did, like, what was the first Riddick movie called?
Pitch Black. That's right. Yeah.
So anyways, he was like in a commercial for these toys I think they're called hand sharks. And it's just like him in a dark room, and he's wearing just like a vest, and it's a hand puppet of a shark, and he just screams, "Hand sharks!" And he's just like, "Rrr, rrr," he's just playing with them. Look it up. It's amazing. It would have been great if he had voiced the shark.
That's funny. They should have just done the head sharks.
Yeah.
Like this,
do yourself a
head sharks.
Oh, do yourself a favor. Look it up. It's pretty funny to see him doing this, because this is like way. I mean, I think he would have maybe have done Saving Private Ryan at this point, but I think before Pitch Black. He looks pretty young in the commercial, but I think it's from like late 90s. The toy.
So I guess we're kind of closing up the episode here. So one of the twins there reads Vision's distress and puts Wanda onto it. And I mean, I was expecting kind of Wanda to go out to save him or do something like that. But what does she do? She blasts Pietro away because he's an asshole, I guess, and expands her influence. The perimeter of the town explodes and basically engulfs the entire sword encampment there, and they all just become, it's a circus. It's a circus now. So that was
because they're a bunch of clowns. A bunch of clowns.
They are a bunch of clowns. They are a bunch of clowns. And what's his name escapes the spread there. What's that fucking guy's name again?
Hayward.
Yeah, thank you.
As well as Rambo.
Right, Rambo and Jimmy escape as well. Yeah. Although I didn't see that. Did I miss it? I didn't see them. Where are they going?
It does happen. They're actually already driving away, and then I think one of them sees it in the rear view mirror. Yeah. But then all the other action happens of the shit taking over the sword base and whatnot.
Right. So hold on. So Monica and Jimmy were already driving in the opposite direction.
Yes.
Of the town.
Because there's a line, because they leave Darcy, right? Because they left Darcy to go find. I'm going to stay behind.
And they were going to go do what?
They were going to go find. They were going to go meet somebody Monica knows. It was my space engineer guy. Which again, if you read all the theories, people put too much on this show, because now it's like, oh, the aerospace guy must be Reed Richards. Like, guys, fucking relax already. They're not going to introduce mutants and the Fantastic Four and Submariner in this fucking show.
In one episode to boot.
In one episode. We got 3 episodes. They're going to do all that and all those 3 things and introduce a secret invasion. Okay, just hold on. Like, is Patrick Stewart going to come out of the sky with a flaming sword riding a Pegasus in the next episode here? He may as well. Along with James McAvoy.
They did it. Yeah.
All of them. Why not?
And then, the same horse.
And Ryan Reynolds as well. Because, why? Because why not at this point?
Because why not? Yeah.
I mean, because who better else to break the fourth wall than Deadpool himself, right? So I was going to say Van Wilder himself, but Deadpool himself.
No, he gets absorbed and becomes Van Wilder.
Oh, man. That'd be great.
There you go.
Yeah. And Henry Cavill, too. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not, guys? Internet, make it happen.
That's my secret wish, is that Disney will buy Warner Brothers and absorb the DC universe into Marvel, and we can get some decent DC movies for a change, but that's neither here nor there. So, okay.
Well,
if I had the tumbleweed sound effect, I would have used
I can't.
Do I have it?
No, I can't land a joke at all tonight, guys. Give me a fucking break. Holy shit. Like, give me a token laugh. I need some canned laughter here, just for my ego. Yeah. All right, so the town. Okay, so the town expands basically. I don't know. I'm looking forward to the traveling circus next week, but I mean, I guess
that's a horror show. If they're trapped like that,
Vision saved, and I guess that's kind of it. That's where we leave things.
I guess before you guys we kind of end it, just your thoughts then on Wanda extending it. She knows. She says, I don't know how all of this started, but hey, now I'm just going to extend it. Doesn't matter what happens. So it doesn't seem like she just stopped an extra few meters to get Vision inside the bubble.
That was a lot.
It's a lot. She's just going crazy. And I don't even know if we see it stop by the end of the episode. It's just they cut to credits, right? As it's still expanding. So I think, Nathan, you had mentioned before that she in the comics has kind of warped reality in some certain storylines. So now, what is she doing here? She's just that upset. She's just going to be she's turning into Thanos. It's I don't give a fuck, right?
I mean, it's a little bit like that. I mean, although her motives are perhaps a little more, I don't want to say selfish, because I mean, it's a combination of, grief and, it could be entirely, there's a monkey's paw deal as to why she doesn't really remember. She's yeah, sure, I'd love to have the robot back. I think that they're keeping the reveal as to why this is happening, because if it is just her and she just created it, why leave that still a mystery? They're telling you that she doesn't remember, right? So
something else is going on.
Yeah, it's still a Marvel thing. So they kind of need. Now, I'm not saying that she's completely blameless in all of this, right? She can stop it. These people are obviously suffering. There is a question of the children, right? Because even Pietro had sort of brought up you just keep them asleep all the time so they don't have to suffer through all this. Sort of thing. But yeah, Harry, you're right. In the comic book, I'm not that familiar with this. I just sort of know the high level details of the House of M storyline. I think what it is, Professor X is sort of keeping her in check And then when she completely loses it, then she changes all of reality. Now, in the comic books, I'm not exactly sure what the extent of her powers are exactly. But I think also the other thing is that I don't know if this is related to House of M, but there is also another storyline where she, I think, goes crazy because she loses her children because they don't die, but they are, I'm not exactly sure exactly how it works. Like they somehow no longer exist, but she remembers them, or they're taken to hell or something like that. I don't really remember. So I think with the introduction of the kids here, I think is important somehow. Mm-hmm. And again, I think because Quicksilver had such an interest in the kids, I mean, it's kind of the uncle dynamic, but he even actually does say to them, go get them hell, or like create chaos, hell spawn to them and stuff like that. I mean, it was such an odd line, I thought.
Well, it's just the fun. It could also just be the fun, wacky uncle, but you're right.
I think it is. I think there's there's so many red herrings in the show, I think.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of red herrings because I remember completely overanalyzing the dinner scene from the first episode. It's like, but none of that's really paid off. Like it was just the scene, you know? And so like lines like that, I can't like help like every little fucking detail I'm thinking about. But I think if you take a step back and look at it, I think she's in control of it. I don't think she created it though.
No, I mean, it doesn't look like she created it, but no, I don't know. Yeah.
And I still think her children play a part in it in the sense that, at least my ongoing theory is that she was sort of granted this. The kids are sort of she didn't expect them, but I think whoever created this may have expected that the children would come along and they somehow play into this.
Potentially, yeah.
Right? Like a bit of a Rumpelstiltskin sort of scenario, maybe.
Maybe.
So let's just talk for a minute about the format of the show. So we know we're doing a Malcolm in the Middle homage here. You know, last week we did a Family Ties. The week before that, there was no sitcom at all. So what did you guys think of the sitcom this week? The format? Did it work for you? Did they lean into it the right amount? Perry, what are your thoughts just around this week's sitcom format?
Disappointed. They didn't lean into it at all, except for the opening. Yeah. Just kind of like last week. I think at this point now, the format's just a gimmick. It's unfortunate. I think it's died. It's gone the way of the dodo, or it's slowly dying a slow death. So I don't think that there's anything. I know, Nathan, you had mentioned something that it still was filmed in a way that it made it look older. I personally didn't get that. I think, but it's very difficult to say either way because we are in modern times essentially. The time frame for the formats now in the last 2 decades. So I really don't see. There wasn't a lot with the kids. There wasn't a lot with the family. It was just now Vision's just questioning everything, suspicious, and he wants to find answers. So he went off at his own. Wanda was dealing with Pietro or fake Pietro or whoever this guy is. And it just felt generic. It wasn't that it was bad. I liked their scenes together. But with respect to the format, it didn't speak to me in any specific way. So that's all I'll say.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I think I generally agree. It felt like at the start they were leaning into the format a bit. Like the opening was good, and they started with the kids talking to the camera. Even though I didn't watch Malcolm in the Middle, I could see they were doing it, but they seemed to quickly abandon the format after that. I think they struck a better balance than last week. Like last week, just
yeah, I'd say so. Yes.
Yeah. So this was better than last week, but yeah, I think they didn't take advantage of the format as much as they should have. Nathan, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think at least the first few minutes did feel. I think that they did use the format fairly well, and I would actually have to go back and watch it. I think the reason why it feels like it's a show from that era because when they juxtapose it with the outside of the hex, I think there's actually even like a change in just the overall resolution. Whereas like you get like a real high def feel to everything on the outside, and on in the inside, not everything's quite as crisp, and it's not quite as cinematic. It's still very TV-esque. I
felt that last
first
week.
Few minutes.
Yeah, last week it felt.
Oh,
soft.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, which was fine. The format felt like it wasn't as crisp. It felt like it was filmed, like they were purposely trying to film it as it was shot in the 80s. This week, I don't
Right.
know if I could. This week's format, I don't know if I could tell a difference between what you're saying, the outside
Yeah,
and
and
the inside.
I think, but for me, it only really happens the first, I don't know, 5 minutes, like after the
Mhm.
opening, which I think was still really solid. But I think part of the reason why it sort of breaks down is because Vision is leaving the show in a lot of ways because he's outside of the show, I guess.
That's
And
right.
so they
Mhm.
intercut between Wanda and Pietro, Vision, and outside the hex, and you're getting this mix. And so I think the reason why they do that is maybe they thought it would be too visually jarring to go back and forth all the time. And so they kind of keep it all a little bit more consistent. I thought when they did jokes, I thought they were fine. I thought they were okay. But again, yeah, I didn't watch Malcolm in the Middle. So I have no nostalgia for
Mhm.
that era. For me, I basically stopped watching sitcoms after Seinfeld, right? So
Yeah.
that would have been when did Seinfeld end? Like 97, 98,
Yeah.
right? And it was sort of a holdover from sort of a previous era of sitcom. And so for me, I just got no nostalgia for that. So it was just sort of very generic. Like you could have told me, yeah, they're doing a show from 1994, like they're doing 30 something, or they're doing Malcolm. I don't know. Didn't hate the episode. I liked it. I liked Evan Peters. I thought, he brought in a good mix, and I liked the wacky uncle angle of it. But in a weird way, I almost wish that the pace is actually slowing down, where it's like, okay, we get it. Vision's questioning things. There's still the mystery of it. But didn't we do that last week?
Yeah.
And so did they feel that, well, we need another episode to bring it to more modern era? I don't know. I kind of felt like this episode didn't do anything that we didn't already kind of do last week.
Yeah, I thought the jokes were better this week. I almost feel like last week's episode should go, and like it should have just been this week's episode in a way. Like it feels like both last week and this week did a lot of the same, covered the same material in a lot of ways. And it's hard to have redundant episodes when you only have a 9-episode season, right? So I don't know, maybe a bit of a missed opportunity. Well, again, I'll say, I think I said last week. Last week was the missed opportunity. I think if last week wasn't here and it was just this week with some retooling, obviously because of the brother, then I think we might be happier with it. Like that would just make more sense to me. I don't know, but yeah, I guess that's episode 6 that we're on here, episode 6. So yeah, any final thoughts, Harry? Why don't you give us your final word? Anything we missed that you want to cover?
Well, you alluded to it at the beginning, but I love when she says "kick ass" because I laughed because I said
Yeah.
that's definitely a nod to Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah, because they say kick ass twice, right?
Yeah. So we were joking about that last week, and then they bring it up this week, and I thought that was fantastic. So I enjoyed that aspect.
That was great.
I agree with what you said, Nathan. I think the first few minutes of the show they were dealing with the format, but they've abandoned it after that. So it was like a 42 minute episode. So pretty much I'd say a little bit more than 90% of the episode had nothing to do with the format. So but there's the reason for that is that Vision is off being suspicious and challenging everything and questioning everything. So, and she's distracted from Pietro. So there's a reason why it's not there. It's just disappointing that there's not more of it, but that's okay. I think that is now out of the picture moving forward, so I've accepted it. I still enjoyed the episode. I agree with you guys partially that they kind of replayed some of the same beats as last week and this week, because I still enjoyed what was going on this week, especially with her and Pietro and Vision still going out there and questioning stuff. So he's taking his time. He's not just rush out and then the show's done. So I'm enjoying the pace. I don't think pacing's an issue, but everything outside with the generic MCU players, I'm not digging that. I'm not digging what's going on with Rambeau and Jimmy Woo and Darcy. I mean, Darcy coming into the world will be interesting now. We talked about Kat Dennings has experience in the sitcom format, but if we're really abandoning that, then it's kind of a waste. So we'll see what happens next week, but I still recommend it. I like it pretty much as I liked last week's episode. But yeah, it's not as strong as the better episodes so far this year, but still a recommend for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll go next. I'll give Nathan the last word. I actually like this episode quite a bit. I think this one was up there for me with the series. It might have been my favorite episode, if only because I felt they struck the right balance, because I know like they have to bring in the outside world. They got to bring in the MCU here. And once I kind of came to grips with the fact that we were going to have MCU stuff from the outside in, once I came to grips with that, then I can kind of live with the balance here. I thought it was pretty good. I laughed at the jokes. I thought it was much better than last week. It's got its problems. I mean, but I like that they are still. I still like what they're doing. I still want to see every week. So I'll give them that. I love Evan Peters there. I thought he was very funny. I thought it was very funny. Like they did some good jokes with the wacky uncle while still, laying the groundwork and for what's to come here. So lots to unpack. I appreciated it. So Nathan, you get the last word.
So yeah, I mean, overall, I like the episode, but I think I'm still mourning the loss of, I guess, like the single episode. We're strictly doing the format. Yeah, I'm a little bit sort of in between you guys as far as like how I feel about the episode. I mean, I wasn't overall disappointed with it, but I felt like, we didn't really advance it. Although I feel like the thing with the commercial, which I really dug, like just on a production level, I thought it was really great. I thought it was very evocative of that era for like a kid's commercial. And, like the little details, like I'm a sucker for that sort of stuff. So I like all the little Easter eggs and whatnot. Like, I mean, their costumes were fun, but also even like the Pietro, like I think the first time he goes and speeds out, gets costumes for him and the one kid. His hair's like their hair's like blown back, but that's what he looks like in the comic book with like crazy ass hair. And, this show, it has its humor, and I did laugh at some jokes, but it's also like this weird horror show. The way these people are trapped in there. So I think on a rewatch, I'd be curious to know where this falls for me. But yeah, I mean, it's good. I'm holding off, like kind of like in my mind, trying to rank them too much until I have the whole picture of it, right? So because it's playing out as like one long ass movie, it's sort of hard to, like, you're 2/3 of the way in, you're like, oh, I really like that 20-minute segment. That was the best part of the movie, right? You're not even finished watching the movie yet, so.
Yeah, good point. That's a really good point. Yeah, it basically is one long movie. So that's a good point. Like,
it'll be like the longest after Endgame. It'll be like the longest MCU movie, I think.
But just barely after Endgame.
Yeah, just barely.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, well, I guess that puts a Sokovian bow on episode 6, WandaVision. So we'll be back next week with our review of episode 7. Send us an email at rareantiquitiespod@gmail.com. You can rage tweet us as well at some bullshit that Harry knows.
That's the Twitter handle. That's some bullshit that Harry knows.
That's some bullshit, Harry. That should be the Twitter handle. It'd be so great.
There you go.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, let us know what you thought, or, if you want to like ask Harry out on a date or whatever, that's... do those things, do all that stuff. That's what we want to hear. All right, guys. Well, thanks for spending your Friday night recapping episode 6 of WandaVision. And we'll see you same Wanda time, same Wanda channel next week.
That's right.
All right, sounds good.
See you guys next week.
All right, see you then.